Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome to another edition of Silhouette of a Queen. I am your host, Tiffany Devon, and I am a certified life coach and wardrobe stylist, and I style leaders and influencers in fearless fashions. And I am very excited about tonight's segment. For those of you who are new to the Silhouette of a Queen segment, allow me to introduce what the Silhouette of a Queen segment is about and how it all came about. I actually created Silhouette of a Queen last year of 2020 with this urgency that God just put a message in my heart telling me that I needed to start this immediately and not to drag my feet. And so I had this up and going within the next 3 weeks. And let me tell you something. Although I created it for women to be able to minister to women, but also on the same time, God was ministering to me through my own platform and through the segments that I was continuing to roll out over the past year. And let me just tell you, I am not the same woman that I was last year. And so I just hope as you continue to rock and roll with me and grow with me, that you will find that the messages in your heart begin to not only just prick you, but cause you to evolve and to become better. So when you think of a silhouette, you think of an image that is yet to be seen. And that's what I really wanted to drive home about when I talked about Silhouette of a Queen, is just to really say, as women, we are always becoming. We are always ascending from, as the Bible says, glory to glory. There's levels to this. There's always another level for us to get to. And so that's what I created it for, and just for us to continue to aspire to greater maturity as women. And so I just really excited tonight because I brought on a very special guest. She is someone that I have known, oh my gosh, probably over 20, yeah, forever. And is my friend. She's also a therapist, a coach, and consultant. Her name is Chandra Green. And I just want to give you a little quick bio about Chandra. She has a passion to help others live their best life holistically. Chandra has spent years working with her community, individuals, groups, families, couples, and leaders in business to help channel conscious outcomes regarding healing, relationship goals, trauma healing, and trauma-informed leadership skills. So y'all give it up for Chandra in the comments, okay? Give her, snap, do okay, clap, clap, hands up, praising hands, emojis, however you all want to do it. Show her some love on the Silhouette of a Queen. Chandra, how you doing?
I'm good, girl. How you doing?
Good.
All
Um,
right.
like I was telling you behind the scenes, that I knew that I wanted to bring a therapist on to the Silhouette of a Queen segment because I've been very transparent with my own journey about therapy and getting to the other side of trauma. So for those of you who are new to tonight's segment, um, I dealt with inherited passed down trauma through the women in my family. And so because there was trauma there, I inherited things such as I had a great deal of fear, and what that comes, people pleasing, being a perfectionist. Those are the behaviors that show up when someone has gone through any type of trauma. And so with me just even going through this journey and unpacking my own life, it helped me to really see how I was showing up in the world and how I really wasn't showing up with becoming my best self. And so I brought on Chandra because she is a professional therapist and she does have experience in helping us to navigate where we are, because we've been in this pandemic for the last 19 months and we've experienced so much just alone with COVID-19, deaths, job loss, family issues. A lot of people got divorces in this season. And I think a lot of it was just because what was there before the pandemic, it just bubbled it up to the top. What do you have to say
Perfect.
about that, Chandra?
Ooh, that pandemic did some things. First of all, hi everybody. Hi, Miss Tiffany. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I always count it an honor when I get to work with people and watch their journey that I've known all my life. Like we doing this thing called life together. So it's amazing.
Yes,
So thank you for having me on. I pandemic. Whew, everything you said happened and then some. I even go into when we had to uh, go into our homes and quarantine. I had my main concern because I've worked in the domestic violence arena for a little bit was that home isn't home to everybody. You know,
yes,
these I work with youth in the school district and are we going to be able to account for all of these youth during the pandemic when it's over? Are we going to have surprises? And it's bad enough that we went in and we're starting to surface and kind of come out and noticing that everybody that we went in with they're not here anymore.
yeah,
And so that in itself is a shock because some people we knew about and some people we didn't. Some people left this earth quietly in their room, and some of them left with a lot of people making a lot of noise. So it's almost like we're finding out what the true effects were. Like you said, relationships aren't the same because people had to actually sit and deal with the dirty of who they with and be like, oh, you are human. You do breathe.
yeah,
You get on my
yeah.
nerves, like all of that. Or or the children and all of that kind of stuff. And with the media messages that came on, this was just compound trauma, right?
Yeah,
It was vicarious trauma. It was systemic. It was historical. We saw all of this happening all at once, not even realizing the true effects that it was having on us, and forgetting that even in that for some people there was some good that came out of this.
yes,
Um, for people who don't want to sit and talk to themselves and have that conversation that they've been needing to have, they had that opportunity to do it. They didn't like it. They got mad about it. Maybe had a breakdown or two, but they sat with themselves, right?
yeah,
Some people decided that they were entrepreneurs and birthed different projects and different ways of living and found out how creative they were
yeah,
during this. And some people fell in love and got married while other people were divorcing.
yeah,
So there were some good things that came out of it, but on the news and what was reported and what we saw on social media and what was, in our face, we was bombarded by the negative. So depression and anxiety was easy to come by during these
yeah.
times. So
Yeah, yeah. You said something very interesting. There were good things and not so great things that came out during um, this season. It reminds me, there's a story about when an egg is boiling in the water, what's going to come out, I'm reminded about that because even through my own experience when the pandemic first happened, is when I started noticing, I started having insomnia really bad. I
mm,
mean, like I would get into bed around maybe 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, and would just be wide awake at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, could not sleep at all. And so much to the point that my heart rate started going up. And
wow,
my resting heart rate was like 100, 120.
that's not
And
risky.
yeah, no, not at all, not at all.
Mm,
And so I'm nervous because I'm like, whoa, this is my heart. It shouldn't be this way. So I went to the doctor, had EKG, had my heart
mm,
was good. Bless God, thank you. But it still wouldn't turn down. And so my doctor then says to me after I go back, like after some follow-up appointments, she finally asked me, she said, have you ever experienced trauma? And I go, no, I haven't. I said, but my mother has. And she says, well, you know what? I want you to see a therapist. And I was very open to that process because I had been through therapy before. And so I started going to therapy earlier this year. And I'm telling you, that experience cracked me wide open. Um, And that's why I love that you dive into the holistic piece of it, because for me, I didn't recognize all of the stuff that I had been carrying. It took the pandemic for it to come to the top, for me to really have to get through some things and really start unpacking a lot of the stuff. And so as I continue to go through therapy and unpacking those things, my heart rate went down, the insomnia stopped, all of that, all of those things stopped, that was passed down for me from generation to generation. I really want to know, like, what made you decide to become a therapist and go down that path?
Ooh, what made me decide to become a therapist? So I started off my aspirations was to be a beautician and have my own salon. So I went to cosmetology school.
Yeah.
Then I was like, I'm own a business and everything like that. So then I went and got my master's in business law. So totally away from all of this, but life just kept handing me things that I didn't know how to process. And not even necessarily bad or anything, but even how I dealt with relationships and how I would internalize stuff. It just was, I realized a lot of that was unhealthy for me, and it was
Mhm.
blocking my growth. Like I could go so far, and then I started looking at people around me. I try to learn from other people so that I don't necessarily have to go through it, is
Yeah.
what I used to always tell myself. But me watching other people go through stuff gave me pause to go through things. So it created an anxiety in me that I didn't necessarily know. So I watched a lot of divorces. Even though my parents were married all my life, I still watched a lot of relationship things happen between my friends, but in my own family, extended, and just everywhere. And I was like, man, is this really how it's supposed to be? And I remember one day I had really hit like this moment, and I was like, everybody I would call, instead of me being able to say what was going on with me, they were having like this whole moment, like with themselves, right? And I
Mhm.
was like, ain't nobody around me happy? Can't nobody be happy? Nobody. Ain't no, nobody can help me with, yeah. So what I did was, and I think this is my very first experience at doing therapy, not knowing what I was doing,
Yeah.
but I called people. I was hearing the same stories from different women, because that's who I was calling, because, I was hearing the same stories, but they were all in different phases of the same story, and I couldn't necessarily tell the other person, oh, you should talk to this person because they. So I just
Mhm.
got everybody together in a room, in my living room, and I did brunch. I cooked for everybody. And it was about like 30 something from middle school to great grandmothers sitting in my living room. And I was like, okay, y'all, we got to heal because I can't call none of y'all. So it was selfish
Yeah.
in that I wanted my own healing, but it also started a process that made us start having conversations about why we're hurt, and why we don't reach out to help each other, and what that help looks like. So and so from there, along with my work and social work and me realizing different things, I was like, let me just, if God gifts you with something, it's not until you learn how to wrap it, it's not really a present. you know
Yeah.
can't
Yeah.
really, you have it, you know how to use it, you can tap into it, but it's not really present in the present.
Yeah.
So I needed to go refine some of these things that I was doing and saying and telling people and making sure that it made sense.
Yeah. So it really sounds like you were just led down this path, like it
No
chose
choice.
you. You didn't choose it, it chose you.
Absolutely, because this is crazy.
And I think that's the interesting thing about, a calling, is
Hmm.
that a calling is one thing where you rather just run the opposite direction and tell God all the reasons why you didn't pick the right person, because listen, I
Hmm.
don't like this, I don't like this, I don't like this. But it's the thing that, he uses the most. And so for you to really just have that level of awareness to say, you know what, no one around me is here. Like, you basically said I need to lead the change. So can you break down the meaning of trauma, since that's what we've been experiencing a lot of?
I could give y'all the textbook, but it's basic. It's really anything that happens in your life that basically stops you in your tracks. Physically, you find yourself at a standpoint. Emotionally, you find yourself. Spiritually, you find yourself at a standpoint. It can have like long lasting effects on any of those things. People think that it has to be something so detrimental, but I leave it open for a person to define their own trauma, because people are affected different. We're made different. And when you're talking about like generationally, what's passed down to us, I can't tell you why sitting in the dark bothers you, you
Yeah,
know, and why that's trauma for you. But to somebody else, they're like, just turn the light on. And you're like, I got to get the strength to turn the
yeah,
light on because I'm scared to move in the dark, literally, you know. So anything that just basically makes it hard for you to move to the next level, or you find it hard for you to say, I can, how do I get up?
yeah,
How do I go? How do I trust again? How do I, like, something happened that stopped you pretty much.
yeah, yeah. And it's interesting because trauma can show up differently for different people, like you said, with the
Right.
dark. And I'll even be transparent, even like with my own journey, because I haven't gone through trauma, but like I said, dealing with inherited family trauma. So one of the things that God started really pointing out to me is really helping me to identify the emotional side of someone who has gone through trauma. So if
Mm.
you're a woman that's been physically, sexually, mentally, or emotionally abused, and that power has been taken away from you, this is how it will show up. It will show up as one or two things. Either you're going to be super rebellious, or you're going to be like, I don't have a voice. Why speak up? You may become passive aggressive, because you just don't feel like you have a voice that matters. And then I even had to explore, like, you know, how would you feel if that was happening to you? And I had to say, well, I would be pissed off. And so he just walked me through that journey and that process, and how like over a period of time, like if you really don't deal with the emotional side of it, how it can start,
Mhm.
affecting your body, and the trauma, holding the trauma in with things come up as muscle spasms. It can show up with irritable bowel syndrome, and stomach queasiness, and back problems, and neck problems, and things like that. Like, God created our bodies in such a way that it is always, there's this book that is called The Body Keeps the
Body keeps
Score.
score. Mhm.
Yes, that book is a really good book.
Mhm.
And like he just designed it in such a way to where, the body keeps the score. It is telling you a story about what it is that you're holding on to emotionally by way of trauma. And when you start actually doing the work, and I
Mhm.
think that's the tough part,
Mhm.
that I've noticed with people, especially people of faith, is that we've got the spiritual part on lock, but when it comes to being a doer and actually acting
Now
out
that we
what
got
these
the spiritual part on lock, I think
yeah, yeah,
I don't let me okay, so you said a few things. Let me back up real quick, okay? So because I want to
okay,
give just a little bit of the science when we talk about the generational trauma.
okay,
I always, when I'm doing workshops, I say, what is the person walking into a room with, right? Because I'm not just walking in with flesh and blood and and bones. That would be nice if that's all I walked in with what you see. But I'm layers. I'm layers. I'm systemic layers. I'm institutional layers. I'm historical layers. My community is another layer. My family is another layer. Then you get to me,
you,
right?
yeah,
So all them things that have happened in the background, and especially when we're talking about historically, our brains um, are not meant to handle trauma. And for people who say, no, we're equipped to do whatever God has. No, God did not intend for us to experience trauma. If you go back to the very beginning of the Bible, um, trauma came after the apple, right? So it literally, in order for their eyes to be open, their brain literally had to shift. there is a change in how we think. There is we call them ruts, kind of. So there's your brain literally changes shape when you experience trauma, and your chromosomes become smaller, right? And so when we start talking about what's passed down through DNA, that's why the blood is so important. That's a whole nother message. And so I'm not going to go all into that, but the blood is important because it carries the DNA of our forefathers, right? And so the stress and their shortened chromosomes, their shortened telomeres, their shortened lifespan. Their pain. You can pass down eye color, you can pass down skin color, you can pass down. You're be like, oh, he act just like his daddy. She act just like her auntie. Da, 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 da. Well, you passing down behaviors as well, and you're passing down trauma, all in the DNA. The blood is powerful, right?
Yeah.
So when we start talking about generationally what we're dealing with, and when you see babies having nightmares and you don't even know where these nightmares are coming from, or and you see all these other attributes that are just like such and such, and we excuse it because that's just how poo-poo is, right? But they didn't deal with they didn't deal with the trauma, and they didn't deal with the trauma of their forefathers. Now, skipping forward to the church part of it.
Yeah.
If we are able to get past the slave version of the Bible and actually dig in and read what we're supposed to, because we weren't ever supposed to read, we weren't ever supposed to be able to interpret, we weren't supposed to be this smart. So we operated off of the scriptures that the master told us, and one of those including don't ask no questions, right? And that's what, how many times when you don't question God, that is not Bible. It's just not. If anything, when you read it, it says ask for wisdom. If you don't understand something, ask about it, right? And I think that's where we get stuck, because we feel like this is just the cards that we're dealt. This is just where we are. And then we start getting mad at God for decisions that man made. And we don't understand what that looks like, because God gave us choice from the very beginning. And he said he wasn't going to come in between the choice that he gave us. So we'll start getting mad at people, or we'll start getting mad at God and have to reevaluate our relationship with God because the person next to us made a decision that they didn't want to be right.
Yeah.
And so when we start to line up the truth of what we should know when it comes to relationship, when we talk about the church and how that lines up, then the therapy part begins to make a little bit more sense for the believer.
Yeah. Because I think that's what makes it so complex a bit, with being a believer. And, now we're having conversations more than ever with therapy. And I have to say, Jesus and therapy do go together. They hold hands and they skip through the park in tulips and all of that great jazz.
They bring a little something. They bring a little something into the place.
Absolutely.
I don't have to tell you, Jesus, but you don't feel them through me. I'll tell you
that. Yeah. So how would someone know when it's time to seek professional help? What would be some signs?
Life. No, a lot of times we wait on a catastrophe to happen, right? Like, oh my, or we wait on everyone to start telling us. But what people don't realize, sometimes going to therapy can help you with your day-to-day. I just need to talk it out. I got too much on my plate right now. I need to figure out this therapy, that's life coaching, from then. But especially when you start to find yourself at crossroads, or you notice behaviors that, and this is the thing, we tend to call what other people say about us, like, oh, you being a hater, or you just don't like me. Like, we start looking at those narratives. But if more than 1, 2, 3, 4 people keep telling you the same thing, just go do a check. Let me just go see if it's something to why I'm always angry and why I'm always popping off, or why I feel like I need to be by myself all the time. Understanding personalities, there's introverts and extroverts, but there's a difference between being okay with being by yourself and building walls to be by yourself. There's a difference. There's a
Yeah.
difference between I'm going out and being social because that's what I do versus I'm going out being social because I need to avoid life or fill in the blank, you know.
Yes.
So when you start finding yourself making decisions, and sometimes it just takes a realization. But if you know if it's suggested to you, or you find that you hit a hard patch, a lot of people wait. We don't do it because, especially Black people, it's that oh, you crazy if you go to
Yeah.
therapy or something's wrong with you. But if you cut your leg, do you go to the ER or do you go to the altar? I'm just trying to figure out. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
if you need
That
to go
part.
work out, lose some weight, are you gonna go to the gym, talk to a trainer maybe, or you gonna go stand at the altar and be like, Lord, take, you know, faith without works is dead. So we can have all
Yeah.
the faith in the world, but if we're not willing to work, and this
Yeah.
is hard work, this is heart and mind work, those
Yeah.
things can break. So they can have fractures.
Yes. Yes.
So
Yes.
just being willing to go in and how healthy and happy do you want to be?
Yeah. Absolutely. And for me, my therapist has been a godsend. She has helped me to navigate things. And as I began to navigate things, I'm able to think clearly, process things. It just has helped a great deal. And so, when I first started talking about, mental health and emotional health, it was in 2015. And it
Mhm.
was at a time where um, we were just starting to have a conversation about it, but people weren't talking about it as much as they are now. And that was just 6 years ago. And I remember, like, when I put my story out there, I was just super, super nervous about it. And for those of you that are watching, my story is that, I had a mental break, in 2012, and I actually had another one here this year. And, you know, one of the things that both of those incidents taught me is what I need to let go of and what I need to start speaking up more about, because, the break for me came into not knowing, taking things home, being stressed out, allowing triggers and things like that, to the point where I was starting to lose sleep. So at the point where now my mental health is being affected, it now made me have to show up differently. And so I decided to take both of those incidences that happened to me and use it as a place to continue to grow and move forward and show and tell myself, what do I need to do differently? So that's for me how I chose to look at it. What are
Tiffany,
some?
can I just say, wait, I know you're about to ask me a question, but I just want to
uh
say, like, I love your story because it is the true definition. I know it's cliche when we say it, but the purpose and the pain
yeah,
piece of it. And I think a lot of us experience a lot of hopelessness. And so when people are able to share their testimony of, I went through it, I've been there,
yeah,
but I'm here to show you that there is another side
yeah,
to all of that, you
yeah,
know.
yeah.
There's another place that you can go. I have to applaud those journeys.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Because it wasn't pretty. It just really wasn't pretty. I decided, especially, this happened in July, the second incident, and I checked myself into a facility, and I was in a behavioral health facility for 7 days, and it was one of those things where I was in there with people who were drug addicted, alcohol addicted, you name it. Everybody was in here. And I'm sitting there like, God, like, look, all I wanted was some sleep. Like, why did you bring me here? Like, I felt like
Mhm.
it was the bottom of the bottom, the lowest of the low I ever could have went through. But God showed me some things in regards to how we handle the mental health community in this country.
Mm.
And it's, when I tell you, I don't see, but I feel like a change will come in that area. It's not, there's not a solution, there's not a real solution to it. And I think it's because, we need to be able to interject the spiritual side of it, the mental side. They all go together. It's like you can't just address the spiritual side and negate the natural, and you can't just
Mhm.
do the natural and then negate the spiritual. And so I was allowed to see a lot of different things that had I not gone through that experience, I wouldn't have. I wouldn't have.
Mhm. Well, and I'll tell you, I've had clients who don't do spiritual,
Yeah,
who don't do that, and but there's still always and I'm a firm believer you got to walk your own journey. I'm not here to convince you, force you,
yeah,
anything like that. I'm here to help you with the journey that you choose to live in this life. However, there is a reflection moment of where does your hope come from? Where does your faith, like
yeah,
what is your moral compass guided by? So but I mean, for me personally, I don't know how people do it without God. I don't know how they
me
do
too.
it without Jesus. But to each his own. But I don't, I don't.
Yeah, yeah,
It's, I'm no judge, but yeah, I can't. For me,
yeah,
it goes together. You
yeah.
know, for me to line up because once I pray and I get up off my knees, I got work to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And so for me, this experience has just made me an even better person to find the balance between both of them. Like I said, the natural and the spiritual, because they both go together.
Yeah,
And I'm very passionate because I talk to, I also work full time in ministry, and I get to talk to people who have mental health issues, and it just pains me so much to hear the spiritual. I mean, they're shooting off scripture, they're shooting off these things, but in the natural, it's like I can tell that there's a trauma, there's a wound that happened somewhere along their journey. And even though they may be 50, and even though they may be 60 or 40, they're still emotionally traumatized at the age of where the trauma occurred. And so
that
I can be 50 years old and still get mad and throw a champagne bottle across the, you
yeah,
know, I mean, it's
yeah.
real. And so we
Because
have to
it's
have this
hard to deal with the
conversation.
natural, you know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah,
And I think, and so there's a thing that I've noticed church wise, and just for like sometimes, and I grew up in, so I can say this, I grew up in church. I'm a church girl, I'm a PK, all of that, right? So I feel like I have the right to say things that I want to say, right?
yeah,
But what I noticed is church becomes a scapegoat for a lot of people. Religion becomes I can just stay in the clouds all day and I don't have to ever come down and deal with the natural and what's going on with me in the natural. So when I pop off or when I have those moments, it's okay. I mean, it's gonna be covered, God got me or whatever, and there's nothing wrong with me, and it's nothing wrong, but something happened to you that you
yeah,
don't want to deal with.
yeah,
I know in church where there has been sexual abuse, there has been emotional abuse, there's been a lot of type of leadership abuse, a lot of different things because of the traumas that's just been handed down, but that's in the church and out of the church.
yeah,
The thing about it though is that because of our faith and because of the image of the perfect Christian, we have not been real with what we've gone through, which
hmm,
has caused us to put on a face and to put on this facade to make people think that we are something that we're not. And then when you go home at night, when church is done, and when
yeah,
it's over, and you laying there, and those tears begin to flow, that's not worship. That's hurt.
yeah. Oh,
For a lot of people, but they'll take it because they don't want to deal with the hurt. It's easier to flip over into worship. And
oh,
so you're still missing the fact that God has a deeper work for you. There's a deeper freedom for you.
yeah,
First natural, then spiritual. That's why Jesus talked in parables. That's
yeah,
that's why Jesus made sure that you ate first. You took care of basic needs for the people and gave them the word.
yeah,
And but a lot of us won't even look into our basic needs to see what we need to do for that, because we have camouflaged it with praise and worship and accolades and position and what appears to be religion versus actually getting into the relationship and learning who God is and learning who we are and dealing with the issues, the communication issues that we have with God come from the natural.
yeah. Oh my gosh, that you said that is so good. That is so good because I have even been guilty of doing some of that too. And in all actuality, healing hurts.
It
It hurts.
can.
Yeah, yeah, it
Yeah.
can.
You got to get to a certain space where it doesn't hurt as much.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you learn how to deal with the hurt. You learn how to deal with the things that is. But in the beginning, when you're learning, it's stretching you and it's pulling you. Yeah, it hurts. Even when you
Yeah.
break a leg and it's healing, you still got to wear a cast and can't nobody jump on it or hurt it, or sometimes you
Yeah.
have to be rebroken,
Yeah.
but but when you learn how to heal, then it still has an effect on you, but it may not hurt as much.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true. So let's say our viewers tonight, they have made the decision to say, I'm going to seek help. I'm going to find a licensed therapist. I'm going to really go after my healing. What can you promise them will be on the other side of this? Because everybody has a this that they're aiming to get to, whatever their
Mhm.
this is. What's on the other side of all of this? What's on the other side of all this trauma? What can we expect?
Can I speak to the process first and then talk about the
Yes,
this piece?
yes,
Because
yes,
what'll happen is they'll go to a therapist, the therapist will say something that they don't want to hear, and then they'll be like, okay, this ain't, I'm done. Um, I don't want to do this. That has absolutely nothing to do with what I'm here for. Why are we talking about this? Or why are you talking to me? If you go for family therapy, especially, it's like, well, we're here to talk about this person. We're not here to talk about, me.
yeah, yeah,
So when it starts to get thick, we say no, they got to be off. They don't know what to do. But in reality, if you go to a therapist that knows what they're doing, they have to get to know you. So they're going to ask you all these off the wall questions that seem to have nothing to do with anything. They're going to try to get to know you, and because you know you, I don't know you, you know you, right?
yeah,
But I'm gonna walk along this journey with you if I don't take a moment to kind of collect your life pieces and understand. I know we here because you stubbed your toe, but I need to ask you a question about your earlobe. Your ear look like it might be doing something. What happened there? And
yeah,
but we're all a body, you know. So I just encourage people, if you don't connect with one, you don't have to stick with the same therapist. You can shop around for therapists, but don't give up the journey. I just really want to put that up there and go with the process. You don't have to like your therapist all the time. We're not here to be your friend. I've had plenty of people get mad at me in session and then come back and be like, oh, and I just politely sip my tea and be like, okay, let's go. So but on the other side of this, man, it could be anything on the other side of this. There's a heightened awareness that comes of you, of those around you. Your grace looks different
mhm,
because you're aware of what you've gone through. And so the judgment that you may have had for other people can look a little bit different. The judgment that you have for yourself can look a little bit different. You may find yourself mad at the world, at everything, because you didn't realize what was actually going on. And it
yeah,
could push you into a different purpose. Like it could make you so mad, so frustrated that you decide, I got to do something about this. Right. Or it can give you a doorway into some joy that you never thought was possible.
yeah,
Um, it can repair a relationship, or it can tell you this relationship wasn't good for you.
yeah,
This the other side of this, um, it could surprise you. You know, it could. I always ask people, what's your goal? Even when we're having a conversation, even if you want to have, what's your goal in this conversation? Because that guides a lot of it. But realizing that you give a superficial goal in the beginning, and then the deeper you go, that goal can change. But giving yourself the grace for that to happen. Um, you walk the earth a little bit different. But the other side
yeah.
of this really depends on what you put into it.
Oh, I love that. I love it. I love it. I love it. So you guys, listen. We've covered so much, and I can really attest to that, Chandra, because the very first time I went to therapy, I did the exact same thing. I got ticked off by the second session, and I left and didn't go back. And listen, let me tell you, I paid a cost for it because um, it was at the time that I was dating my ex-husband, and I asked her about if she did premarital counseling. And she says, yes, but you're not ready for marriage. And when I tell you, when she said that, this
We're
wall
okay
just,
with that.
it just went up. And I just immediately remember thinking, like, how is she going to say that? She doesn't know me. She hasn't even sat down and talked with us. And I stopped and I didn't go back to the sessions. I got married. And then within 2 years later, I was divorced. And
Mm.
so after I got the divorce and I went to therapy again, I kept hearing this phrase in my spirit that said, the truth shall set you free. But at first it would piss you off. And I was like, what
Ah,
the?
it absolutely will.
I
And
was
I
like,
just
what
have
does
to
this
sit there
mean?
and say, like, I've said things to people and I'll be like, but it's not even out of, this is the thing too. If you go to a therapist who has discernment,
Mhm.
although we have our format, we have our methods, our technology, our techniques, and all of that kind of stuff. But if you go to a therapist that has discernment, that's prayed up, that is gifted in this thing, they are going to make you upset. They're not there to be your friend.
Yeah.
They're,
Yeah.
they're going to speak some things into your life, around your life, about your life. And the reason why you get mad is because you know it's the truth.
Yeah. 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 And the ego is being pricked.
Let me tell you, when I first had to go to therapy, yes, therapists go to therapy. But this is before I even went. My father had passed, my grandparents had passed, we had experienced a whole lot of stuff. In order for me to keep my scholarship, they was like, we want you to keep your scholarship, but you gotta go to therapy. I went in there and I was like, I put on this whole full act because I just needed to keep, my goal was to, when they asked me what my outcome was, to keep my scholarship, right? So I go in, I used to act a little bit and I was a little crazy, still a little, got weird tendencies. So I went in clutching my purse because this show got to be good. I'm rocking and I make myself start crying when she asked me a question. And then I all of a sudden started crying for real. And I was like, what is going on with me? But I wasn't taking it serious at first, So um yeah, that was crazy. So I just encourage people, we as a world, as a people, we've dealt with a whole lot of stuff that we don't even know. And like I said before, the trauma of our forefathers is real.
Yeah.
And if we can't communicate with people, it's not always everybody else.
Yeah.
It's just not. If you're constantly saying nobody ever wants to blah 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 with me, I'm the only one who ever blah 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 blah. Is that really what it is?
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's talk.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Chandra, I thank you so much for coming on tonight.
Tiffany,
You
this was
guys, it
amazing.
was amazing. You guys, this is what I heard from Chandra about getting to the other side of this. I just want to recap. She said there will be a heightened level of awareness, grace, righteous anger, is what I heard, because there is a righteous anger that makes you angry enough to continue the change, joy, um, and what you get out of it. And so I just encourage everyone tonight that's watching, to pursue your this. Everyone that's watching tonight, you know what your this is. We can't tell you what your this is, but there is something that we are all actively pursuing to get to the other side of. And what I can tell you from personal experience, having have done this work and still doing the work, is that there is a new level of freedom that comes to you. The awareness that comes to you is to be able to make different choices and better choices once you know what you are actually aiming to. And so, Chandra, I just really thank you for coming on to
Thank you for having
Silhouette of a Queen.
me.
Before we close, for those of you that are watching, if you enjoyed this tonight, you can always click like, subscribe, and share the Silhouette of a Queen segment. Again, I am the host and founder of Silhouette of a Queen. I am Tiffany Devon, and I am a certified life coach and wardrobe stylist. And again, I style leaders and influencers in fearless fashions. And it has been a joy rocking with you tonight, Chandra. I've
Okay.
learned so much, and I'm going to continue to take this on my journey. And I just ask that y'all take this on your journey too. And let me know what you think in the comment section. You can always drop a comment there, or you can DM me. Oh, Chandra, where can people connect with you on social media, website, or things like that if they want to know more about
Um,
you?
well, LinkedIn, I'm under Chandra, or you can look, my business is called Soul Mind. So if you want to link up on LinkedIn, you can do that there. You can go to soulmind.life to the website to kind of find out a little bit more of what I do and make appointments and things of that sort with me. What else? Yeah, or you can email me at Chandra at soulmind.life as well. So
All right. So, all right, we'll see you again on the next Silhouette of a Queen. We'll see y'all later. Peace.
bye.